Jamaicans aren't even afraid of freaking Scotch bonnet peppers. You think they're afraid of a Category 5 hurricane? Bomba clot!
Hi lovelies, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Belinda Verse or Belly Dirt channel. Don't forget to please subscribe to this channel, turn on notifications so that anytime I upload videos, you will be the first person to be notified. To my returning subscribers, to those people that share my videos, leave commentaries, and educate each and every one of us, you guys are the real MVP. So lovelies, I'm gonna be your today's host, and I have so many stitches to put up here, and we are gonna come out to talk about it. Alright lovelies, let's dive into today's video.
And this is your reminder, since this app ain't covered it and the news ain't really covered it, there is a hurricane that has just ravaged Jamaica and it's on its way to Cuba. And if you say, oh, well, that's Jamaicans and Cubans, that's not my problem. There are Americans who went there for vacation during this time before any evacuation orders were issued, and they are stuck. So if you don't give a fuck because they're Caribbeans, they're islanders, at least give a fuck because some people from your country are stuck there. Do your research, get involved, and see what we all can do to send some relief to those areas.
This week I have seen multiple videos of people vacationing in Jamaica, crashing out and fighting in breakfast and food lines, complaining because they've had to evacuate out of their rooms and go to other areas of whatever resort they're at, or because the local people that work at the resort weren't tending to them during a Category 5 hurricane. And you all want me to believe that folks are going to keep themselves together when millions of people lose snap, that somehow people are going to magically just get themselves together to be able to organize like human beings in the midst of people losing more jobs and having severe disruptions to their livelihood. Because every time I've been at a rally, a protest, or attempted to even organize things online, just basic stuff like donating to hurricane relief, there are folks that are literally saying that we're fine, we don't need to be doing all of that. And this situation in Jamaica has not only showed me that Americans in the United States are not only comfortable, but very shaky in being able to prove that we can actually come together in a time of a crisis when the shit has hit the fan, versus being the people better known as chaos that trample over each other in the slightest inconvenience for toilet paper and water. Good fucking luck.
And another thing, don't sell your land. Trust me when I say, do not sell your land. Because them vultures gonna come in after all of that destruction and try to sweep up and buy all your land. Hold it tight. Yeah, what's up now? You hold it tight. Do not sell your grandmother house. Do not sell your uncle land. Do not sell shit to these people when they come. Take my word, eh?
Jamaicans in Jamaica could care less about giving you outstanding hotel experience right now. Americans, when I tell y'all, oh my gosh, fellow Americans, can y'all actually turn your brains on for 2.5 seconds? Like, damn, do you actually think that those workers who live in Jamaica care about giving you good food and good service, hot towels and fresh sheets? Now, I decided to be nice and take the lady's username and TikTok profile out this post. But when I tell you I've been scrolling and I've seen one too many of these, what do you mean 0 out of 10 service? What do you mean they don't care? Send help. Send help for you? When you're traveling to another country, when you're traveling specifically to an island, the first thing that you do is research the best times of year to go there. This is hurricane season. Melissa didn't just pop up out of nowhere like, hey, bitch. No. This is the season.
Yo, the attitude of some of the tourists in Jamaica right now is pissing me off. Because how can some of you be so tone deaf? Half of Jamaica is currently being swept away, and I'm seeing videos of tourists complaining about the food and the service they're receiving. Yo, to have the audacity to abuse the people who are still making sure you're well fed and are looking after you in the middle of a natural disaster that they're more affected by than you is really something. And to be frank, I don't care. Don't want to hear it. Stop your noise. Some of us watching from the diaspora have got family, friends and loved ones who we can't even contact because of what's going on. But see you, when this is all over, you get to go home. You get to be with your family. You are not going to be left dealing with the aftermath of this hurricane. Let me repeat that for those in the back. You are not going to be left dealing with the aftermath of this hurricane. So I implore all of you to do three things, please. Have sense, show some compassion, and be grateful. My people don't deserve abuse because they can't cook you oxtail and curry goat in the middle of a Category 5 storm. Get out of my face, man.
And here's my last thought on Jamaica for now, because I have been saying this for years, that your travel destination is somebody else's home. And I've been seeing so many people's videos that they're stuck in Jamaica. They can't get back home. I saw someone complaining that they couldn't cancel their reservation. And here's why I don't feel bad. It is hurricane season. Hurricane season. A season for hurricane. The reason I don't feel bad is because folks willfully opted to take vacations during hurricane season. You are fixated on having your time, drinking your rum punch and pee, without even the forethought or even the second thought that potentially, if there were a hurricane that would occur, not that you would be impacted, but if you're staying on a resort, that the people who live there, the local folks, would have to stay to tend to you. So while people are getting on the internet talking about their families and things that they have back at home, did you stop to wonder about the people who check you in at the hotel, the pool or the room attendant, the chefs or the people that work at the kitchen that now have to stay at this resort because you opted to have your vacation during hurricane season? And therefore, they can't get home to their families either. And I said this before about Ghana a couple of years ago when they were going through an economic crisis, that it was important for people to know what was going on the ground, because what impacts the people will impact you.
So while Jamaicans are dealing with this, there are predatory disaster investors looking to cash in. And they do this after almost every natural disaster. They're usually from out of town. They will call people whose homes have been destroyed and offer to buy their land for much less than what it's worth. And this is pretty disgusting because you're talking about people that are still processing the trauma of a natural disaster. Add to that their uncertainty of whether or not they'll be able to afford the repairs, which is how these investors capitalize. Some property owners will agree to sell, and these investors will buy the land for cheap, but the land values come back quickly. The investors then flip the land for 3 to 4 times as much as what they paid, even if they didn't do any repairs. And it's not people from the community that can afford to buy the property, it's those who have no connection to the land, the culture, or the people. Earlier this year, Wired reported how these investors swarmed in on parts of the Midwest. So back in May, 60 tornadoes ripped through the area. The next day, literally as a community looked like this, homeowners started getting aggressive calls asking if they wanted to sell their homes. One man said he got several calls each day for 2 weeks. So imagine trying to deal with this, but also dealing with nonstop calls from predatory investors. And the playbook is always the same no matter where the disaster is. The Hawaii wildfires, Hurricane Katrina, the California wildfires, the list goes on. Sometimes the investors will go house to house, and according to Business Insider, they have a pre-written contract and try to reach an agreement on the spot. So, if you have property or family land in Jamaica and one of these people tries to buy, don't sell. Because when the land leaves your hand, parts of the community go with it.
The hurricane that just hit Jamaica does not sit right with me. This wasn't just some regular storm. This was the strongest hurricane ever recorded in the history of Jamaica, with winds reaching up to 185 miles per hour. This is also the strongest hurricane in the world in 2025. About 77% of the island's electricity has lost power. People are stranded on top of rooftops, and lives have been lost. But this is where it gets strange. On Jamaica's own government website, they outline something called Vision 2030 Jamaica. This is a national plan directly tied to the UN's 2030 agenda, and one of its core goals, sustainable smart cities. Now call me crazy, but what faster way to speed that up than completely wiping out old infrastructure and rebuilding from scratch? Is this coincidence or is this convenience? And it gets even weirder. Meteorologists and hurricane hunter crews literally flew into the eye of the storm. And take a look at some of this footage. Some people even called it unreal. Maybe it is unreal. And it's not just Jamaica. Los Angeles, also part of the 2030 agenda, faced some of the worst wildfires in its history. Now I know this is speculation, a little bit of conspiracy, but what I do know is that this does not sit right with me.
Child, I've been lighting them tourists up in them videos. Not all them tourists in Jamaica, but honey, I've been lighting them asses up. It's one thing to travel to Jamaica or any island nation during hurricane season. Now, before people say, well, why'd they go during hurricane season? Shut up. Multiple things are happening. Follow me. Not everyone can go on vacation out of hurricane season. And who are you to judge that? If you can't afford the fucking ticket, you can't afford the fucking ticket. If you can't afford the ticket, shut the fuck up, because you were in a place where you couldn't afford that ticket before. You were in a place where you could not afford that ticket before. Okay? Keep it cute. However, Hurricane Melissa's intensity was not supposed to happen. We just thought it was going to be a regular hurricane until it wasn't. And the reason why it's different this time is because Hurricane Melissa sat and hovered over that warm water. That, by the way, is 2 degrees Celsius warmer than last year, because climate change is real. In case you've forgotten, the remnants of a typhoon did astronomical catastrophic damage in Alaska. So please also send your prayers, resources, and make noise about Alaska, as many Indigenous Americans have been displaced due to that. And because FEMA cutting, and because clearly our admin doesn't give a fuck about this country and natural disasters, they paved the way by letting it go for drilling in Indigenous Alaskan land. Don't forget that. Alaska's up there too. Natural disasters are more commonplace now. Back to the thing. Y'all have the nerve, though, to be disrespectful to the staff who are feeding you. That is their home. That is their land. And when you get your ass on a plane and go back home to your landlocked, your apartment, your home, your efficiency, you're leaving them behind as they have to rebuild their lives. And they're resilient, and they endure, and they are strong. That does not mean that you get to make fun of them. Well, you're not dancing now. What the fuck is that about? Or I'm only getting these rations. What the fuck is that about? And what gets me the most is the majority of the staff in these resorts never left y'all. They had families at home. They had families at home. They had a home. And rather than have the compassion to say, yo, you may be going home today, but you may not be going home to your home. Your house may not be there anymore. Maybe the roof isn't there. Maybe massive flooding destroyed your vehicles and what you earned. It's very tone deaf. And it's very, very rude. It's not very compassionate at all. It's a little hateful. To you, and then to say you're going to dispute the charges. You're going to dispute the charges? You were fed, taken care of. There were no casualties of any tourists. There were no casualties of any fucking tourist. As folks have not been able to find their relatives or their friends since Melissa made landfall. It don't cost you nothing to shut the fuck up and be grateful for where you are. Because at the end of the day, you were welcomed into their home. You were invited there. And a few of y'all treated them like shit. Don't go back. And please, do not start this diaspora war. Please. Because I'm mad at them too.
Jamaicans aren't afraid of Scotch bonnet peppers. You think they are afraid of a Category 5 hurricane. Ha ha ha. Bumbleclats. That statement has everything about resilience, but also everything about misunderstanding. Because what we are seeing this week isn't just a hurricane tearing through the Caribbean. It's a hurricane revealing the truth about who people really are when the storm hits. Across social media, multiple videos have surfaced. Tourists fighting over breakfast line, people complaining about having to evacuate their resort rooms, others frustrated that local workers wasn't serving them during the height of the storm. Let's stop right there. We are talking about a Category 5 hurricane, nature's full force, people losing homes, families trying to find safety, and yet there are people upset that the vacation buffet was interrupted. It's not even about the hurricane anymore, it's about how privilege, entitlement, and a total lack of empathy surface in the middle of disaster. Because while tourists were throwing tantrums over scrambled eggs, local Jamaicans were trying to protect their families, their property, their lives. That is the difference between people who live through struggle and those who just visit it for a week. And this moment has exposed more than just bad tourist behavior. It shows how unprepared, how disconnected, and how fragile most people are when chaos strikes. The same people who laugh at third world countries for being poor are the first to lose their minds when the Wi-Fi goes out. Think about that. And it makes me wonder, if people are unhinged over being stung in a hotel during a storm, what happens when something real hits US? When the grip fails, when food supply chains stop, when millions of people lose access to jobs or basic necessities. Because I have been to rallies, I have seen the protests, I have been part of online organizing, and every single time there are people saying, "Oh, we don't need to do that. We are fine. We are comfortable." That comfort will be the downfall. What is happening in Jamaica right now is a test, not just for the island, but for the mindset of our people globally. It shows how people respond when order breaks down. It shows how people react when they can't buy their way out of discomfort. And why the chaos plays out in the front of cameras, there is something even darker happening behind the scenes. The part that never trends on social media, but always follows every disaster, it's called disaster capitalism. The moment the storm passes, when the rain stops and the sky clears, a different kind of storm begins. The phone calls, the paperwork, the offers, predatory investors, people you have never met, people who have never stepped foot in the community. They start calling, they start emailing, they start saying things like, "We are sorry for your loss. We did like to help you get back on your feet. Are you interested in selling your property?" And at first, it sounds like compassion, but it's not. It's business, ugly venture style business. Because when someone's home has been damaged, when they don't know how they will rebuild it, and when they are in pain and panic, that is when the sharks swim in. They offer pennies for what's worth millions. They exploit confusion. They feed on trauma, and it happens every time, single time. After Hurricane Katrina, we saw it in the New Orleans. Historic black neighborhoods were bulldozed, and people who built them were never allowed back. After the wildfire in Hawaii, investors were on the phone within days, calling survivors trying to buy up land while the ashes were still warm. After the California wildfires, the same story. After the tornadoes in the Midwest, the same story. Wired reports this earlier this year, literally the day after dozens of tornadoes ripped through the Midwest. People started getting calls, not from the government, not from relief organizations, from investors asking if they wanted to sell their homes. One man said he got multiple calls every single day for 2 weeks. Now imagine you are in Jamaica, your house is damaged, your roof is gone, your crops are flooded, your phone barely works, and some man from Miami or New York calls you asking, "Hey, would you consider selling your land?" It's evil disguised as opportunity, and that is how communities die. Because when the land leaves your hand, the culture goes with it, the heritage goes with it, the ancestors goes with it, and it's not just symbolic. It's literally, once the land is gone, it really comes back. The prices skyrockets. Locals can't afford to buy it again. Then luxury developers step in. They build resorts, condos, and gated communities for foreigners, and suddenly you wake up and realize your island doesn't belong to you anymore. We have seen this happen across the Caribbean. In Barbados, St. Lucia, Grenada, locals being priced out of their own beach. In Africa, Ghana, Kenya, Tanzania, land quietly being bought by foreign investors and tourism developers. And now, Jamaica faces the same threat in aftermath of disaster. That is why the message is simple. Don't sell your land, not for quick cash, not for temporary relief, because the people offering to help are not here to rebuild your community, they are here to own it. This is how colonization reinvented itself. They don't use ships and soldiers anymore, they use contracts and cash. They don't take the land by force, they buy it under the illusion of helping. It's financial warfare. And let's be clear, many of these investors are not individuals, they are corporations, hedge funds, or anonymous shell companies. Their goal is not the recovering, it's profit. They buy when prices are lowest, right after tragedy, and sell when hopes returns. That is why disaster is so profitable. Not for the people living through it, but for those watching from a distance with calculators and contracts. And this is why our people must start protecting land the same way we protect our lives. Because for the descendants of the enslaved, land is not just property, is proof that we still exist, is the one thing that can't be easily taken unless we hand it over ourselves. It's the same reason why the Heroin and Nama people in Libya are still fighting Germany over stolen land a century later. It's the same reason why African Americans in the US still can't recover land lost through heirs, property loopholes, and it's the same reason why every time a disaster strikes in a black or brown region, the first thing that gets destroyed isn't just homes, it's ownership, because that is the real price. And if you look closely, the pattern always starts with chaos. First comes the storm, then comes confusion, then the offers. Step 3 is the erasure, the transformation of community land into corporate property. And by the time people wake up, it's too late. You will see it in New Orleans, where once black neighborhoods are now whitewashed terrorist zones. You see it in Mwe, where indigenous Hawaiians are fighting to keep what is left of their ancestral land. And now it's creeping into the Caribbean, places like Jamaica that already carry the scars of colonialism. So yes, Jamaicans are tough. Yes, they have survived storms before. But this time, the danger isn't just the wind or the flooding, it's the contract that comes after. It's polite voices on the other end of the phone saying, "We can help you rebuild, just sign here." Because every disaster is followed by a second wave, not of rain, but of greed. And that second wave is often the one that destroys a people permanently. So if you have land in Jamaica or family land anywhere in the Caribbean or Africa, hold it, even if it's broken, even if it's flooded, even if it looks worthless right now, because value returns. And when it does, the people who try to buy it from you, you'll be the ones building on top of it. This hurricane has exposed a lot. The entitlement of tourists, the weakness of certain systems, and the predator's nature of global capitalism. But it's also reminding the rest of us that ownership is survival. Because when you lose land, you lose leverage. And when a people lose leverage, they become tenants on soil the ancestors built. That is what's at stake right now, not just in Jamaica, but across every black nation that finds itself recovering from disaster. The recovering phase is when colonization starts over again, quietly, legally, profitably. So let this hurricane be warning. Let it remind us that storms pass, but contrasts last. That every time strategy strikes, the vulture fly in, and that the only real protection a people have beyond their prayers, beyond their resilience, is ownership. Because when the land stays in our hands, the culture stays alive. When the land leaves our hands, the memory dies.
And if you watch up to this extent, don't forget to please leave me your own thought in the comment section of what you think of this video. And please do not forget that we do not support any form of bullying and harassment. We are just here for educational and informative purposes. So lovelies, why not just share your thought? Subscribe to this channel if you're yet to do that, and I will see you lovelies when I upload the next one.